Did Tuesday really happen? A little weakness in the market. And what do we talk about? Will the buy the dippers come in again? They came in on Tuesday, red open Wednesday, red to green. We had some weak numbers at 10 o'clock that helped out. But folks, buy the dippers still here. Have some earnings reports, nothing major. Levi's, people have been buying Levi's lately, I guess. ConAgra, not a widely followed stock. We'll talk about that. Special guest, 8:35, Kendrick Perkins, ESPN analyst. He's going to talk about investing in athletes, investing in sports. It's Thursday. It's pre-market prep, Aaron. Let's get it started.
Welcome to Benzinga's pre-market prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
All right, team, in the green, 15 handles, 52.8150, trading near the highs of the session, getting back those losses from Tuesday. The buck in the red under 104, down 16 cents at 103.83. TLT, I have the TLT up there because I want to see it back above 92. We're down 22 cents at 91.80. Crude basically flat, 85.37. Gold over 2300, 2306.60. That's down 840. Silver, we got a new handle. That's the 27 handle. That's flat, 2703. Bitcoin futures, they're just hanging out in the green, in the mid 60K handle at 66,805. Let's bring in Triple D. And Triple D, was it a nice, easy after hours session, just everything going to according to plan, making some bank, or what happened to you?
No, sleepy session last night, and then all of a sudden around 7:20, I have no idea what happened. You can see it on the chart, though. We just exploded up about 14 handles in about 14 seconds. I'm not sure if it's Fed speak. I actually never did catch what the headline was, but I was scrambling. I got picked off bad there, and then I was scrambling for longs because I went from like nothing to like major short very quickly there. You know, sitting doing a little after hours market making, and boom. We popped really high. Then we kind of gave a lot of it back like in the next 10, 15 minutes. And then we just slowly started drifting higher here. So it's been a weird session. It was a weird session last night. It was kind of a weird intraday session yesterday. You're getting a little bit of chop. But what is very clear to me, and let's bring AB into this conversation, what is very clear to me is this AI trade is not over. With yesterday's trading action, you know, people were saying, oh, you know, yeah, these stocks are going to all start going down here. You know, NVIDIA's topped out, SMCI. Well, what happened yesterday was a lot of the, you know, the quiet AI trade and some of maybe these other stocks, you know, really started to rip higher. Like, you know, check out VRT. We've talked about this one as an AI trade. 6, 7, 8 days, just leaking a little bit. You're like, oh, you know, this trade's over. And then boom, one day gets it back. One day gets it back from 77 to 85, just like that. And, you know, I just think there's going to be like, you know, that's, you know, indicative of what when you're in bull markets and bull trends is that they leak, and then boom, you know, they get it right back. And I think, you know, you're going to see eventually the same thing in NVIDIA where you're just going to come in. It's going to be up like 50 or 80 or 100 points. You know why I think NVIDIA is going to be up 50 or 80 or 100 points, Joel, one day? You know why. Yes. Not an earnings report. Why is NVIDIA going to be up 100 points one day? Comment.
Humanoids.
No. You guys are. Come on. The chat's going to know. Why would NVIDIA just up 100 points? There you go.
In a buyback.
No. I don't know about a buyback because they're really innovating in themselves, and it's not an NVIDIA thing to do, but I think a stock split's going to come here. I think it's going to rip the face off the bears, and I think that's what's going to push us over $1,000.
Good call.
I'm not sure if that's going to be the high or not, but just keep thinking about it, folks. Like, we're in such early innings here in the AI trade. I don't think the AI trade is over. And if you rewatch, and I rewatched that Kramer interview there when he was interviewing the CEO, obviously, Kramer brought up you know, a buyback, and he's like we'll think about this, you know, like he kind of said that sounds like a darn good idea. You know what, it's been a couple weeks here now. I think it's going to happen. I think they're going to split the stock. I think it's going to be like a, you know, like a 5-for-1 stock split or maybe something more, and then the bears will be like, oh my gosh, we're in a world of hurt. And again, Stock splits don't add any value. It's true, but we know the stocks tend to go higher on it.
People like it.
Because retail
People like
involved,
it.
people like
Yep.
it. CMG just did it, pop from 2,800 to 3,000. It has leaked back, but I think you're going to see a stock split here sooner than later in Nvidia.
Real quick before we get to the news and the other stuff, you talk about moves yesterday, Dennis. I don't know if you were still at your desk, but we've been talking about interest rates, right? And the Fed and saying what this, that. You got some weak data at 10 o'clock, and this was this rip right here. Absolutely 10 a.m., man. If your head was not on a swivel, you got absolutely run over. I mean, it was weak data, and boom, they took that and took it all the way back up in a wild session. So we're moving. We're moving off the interest rate talks. Actually, it was right here. This is where it was yesterday morning. So, man, they're still talking rate cuts. They're still talking weak data.
Yeah, and we had multiple Feds speak yesterday. Obviously off the hop, I think it was Bostic saying one cut, and that was making the market nervous. But then Powell speaking, what'd Powell say? He say anything? He kind of just stayed the course, right?
Yeah, he didn't say anything to that changed much. Let me see if I can get some of his exact comments from yesterday. But yeah, so I mean, going back to what we were just talking about with VRT, I actually was just talking yesterday with Raznick about because we were talking about, Raznick always likes to find the derivative plays, the thing behind the thing, and I was like, look, Nvidia, you've had all the juice kind of squeezed, not all the juice squeezed out, but everyone's been rushing into Nvidia, all these chip stocks, but the data infrastructure plays are still attractive. I mean, you have VRT. I was looking at DLR, I believe the ticker is as well. Digital Realty Trust. That one is a bunch of data centers.
Data centers, yeah,
data centers, and then also this one EQIX. This one really hasn't gotten any love. It's only up about 10% over the last year, and it's an AI play too. And like these data center plays pay dividends. There's probably a little bit less risk involved when it comes to the semi names that have already ran up so much. So I was already talking about this yesterday, and I sent my buddies VRT last week. They were asking about like what are some AI plays that haven't been ran that much, and so I still think they're attractive. I'm not saying like go all in on these data center plays, but if you're looking for some sort of an AI exposure that hasn't had a crazy run up like SMCI or Nvidia, something to look at. These data center plays, I believe.
I just think this trade is far from over. I think sometimes we just need to, and we get caught up, and I very much get caught up in the minutia of day-to-day activity. But if you just sit back and think, where are we going to be with AI 2 years from now? It's going to be unrecognizable. And who is going to lead that charge? It's going to be Nvidia. It's going to be a lot of these other companies that we're talking about too. And if you can pick up any of these companies at 30 times earnings, I think you're doing it all day because these earnings are going to continue to grow. Whether regardless, and the chat's beat me up for 80 to 100 points on Nvidia on a split. I tend to agree with you. I may have overshot with that.
No, I don't think you did, because what they're failing to realize is, okay, so if you say the normal move is around 5% for a Chipotle or Walmart.
Yeah, usually on an announcement you get 4 or 5%.
Right, but then you take the hottest, most wanted stock out there and then put a split on it. I think it'd be a little bit higher than 5%. So that could come when Nvidia's at, we're saying where it's at now, but what if it's a little bit higher? What if it's at 1,100? What if it's at 1,200 when they announce the stock split? I don't think 80 or 100 is that out of the question on a move for the stock split at all, Dennis.
Algos don't care. They'll take it up. Hey, just another one on the infrastructure plays. We didn't talk about this one with Tracy when she came on, but she gave us this one a while ago. Sterling Infrastructure. Look at that chart, man. That had to gap and go off the last earnings. Pulled back. It kind of looks like the Nvidia, make a high, pull back, look a little bit sleepy. I don't know if this one does a ton of volume. Let me check. Trades 250,000, 300,000, but that was another infrastructure play that Tracy Radiak gave us quite some time ago.
It's so tough just saying it's so tough. I could say, oh, this is bearish as they've been, but I don't think those are the stocks you're selling. I mean, even if, interest rates are kicking, and again, with yesterday's trading action, I mean, the TLT makes me very nervous to own stuff like the IWM. It makes me very nervous. And, we tried to bounce back a little bit yesterday, and that's good. The TLT needs to get back up for the IWM. It's why we've rolled over on the IWM to a certain extent. But there's just this underneath demand for stocks here, too, that is just not going away. And, I mean, I feel like, I want to be bearish. I want to raise some cash. We've had multiple guests coming on saying, yeah, we've had an incredible run, and it really has been. I mean, when you give a perspective, what are we talking about? 25% run in the S&P over the last 5 months? I mean, it's a huge run. So, I mean, I want to sell everything and be, bearish, but then I just see the tape and I see action like yesterday, and it's like, man, I get bearish for a day or two, and then I'm like, the bulls just reemerge. So, I mean, from a long-term investing perspective here, I think you just got to be buying stocks on dips, good companies at reasonable valuations, and stocks that, and honestly have overexposure to this AI trade. I don't think it's time to underexpose ourselves. I mean, certain stocks and then there's the commodity trade, inflation trade too. Like I bought that Alcoa. I mean, I talked about it and I tweeted it out. I bought it $32 5 days ago. It's 37. I mean, holy, that's a move. 5 points on that in just literally 5 days. I didn't expect that quick of a move on Elco. It's still in it. But
why'd you buy
the only reason I bought that is commodities seem to be lifting here. Maybe aluminum starts to get some love. Maybe all of a sudden aluminum starts to get some love. Like we're starting to see commodity inflation across the board. I'm looking for stuff that hasn't gone yet. Alcoa was just sneaky. It was looking at 32 like it was bumping up against resistance and looking like it wants to go. And then, the forward chart looks very, we had the forward numbers yesterday. And that's another one, that, is bumping its head. 13. Boom. You take it out and on good numbers. And then you get the love from Kramer yesterday.
I didn't know saying about the Kramer love.
They were really giving it love in the morning. They were talking about these numbers, and Phil LeBeau was on there. We know, we love Phil LeBeau on this show. We talk about him all the time when talks to Otto. And he was just saying forwards, eating, the hybrid, that they're all over this, this hybrid trade. They're all over it too. And you know what? It's lifting here now too. So, I mean, it's hard to just turn around and say, oh, yeah, this is it. We're turning over because, we got a little bit of a hot inflation down and the Fed's going to kick the can down the road and keep the rates higher for longer. I mean, there's stocks that you would think would go down on that news that are not going down on that news. These sales are significant for Ford. Those are really good numbers yesterday. And along goes Ford. We've liked Ford. We've talked about it on the show. I've been trading it from the long side. I'm not long it now, but I've been in and out just trading it from the long side. It's been, looking like it wants to go here, and here you're in breakout mode. So you get a check back. You usually get a check back. And then you go 13, 14, and back to 13.5. It's one you don't have to chase. But on a pullback here, maybe you're chasing forward.
All right, just to could go backward a little bit. Powell, I mean, basically saying the Fed's going to be data dependent, saying that the economy is still one of solid growth, strong but rebalancing labor market, inflation moving down to 2%. He's saying there's risk on both sides of their mandate, which is, of course, unemployment and inflation. So yeah, again, nothing like too groundbreaking, but basically saying, hey, we're still going to be data dependent. And going meeting to meeting when deciding these next cuts or whether to maintain. Let's go into retail land real quick because we had a couple big headlines yesterday and overnight. I'll throw it to you guys. You guys want to start with the good or the bad? I guess we're starting with the bad. Joel decided for us. Joel decided for us. All right, so Ulta Beauty, which has been just an absolute monster of a stock, probably the leader in the cosmetic space. You have Ulta and Elf, the two biggest, and Estee Lauder, of course, but that one's kind of been a laggard compared to the other two. Ulta yesterday at the JP Morgan conference said that on the JP Morgan Retail Roundup Investor Conference, issued some weak guidance, basically said that growth has been slowing faster than expected. There are some margin concerns as well. So as good as this company has been doing, they basically came out and kind of dampened some expectations yesterday, said, look, our growth has been slowing. Our margins aren't going to be as good. And I mean, I don't know if I wouldn't have expected the stock to move down this much on it, but ended up closing down more than 15%. Almost $80 yesterday on this announcement. Just got absolutely hammered, brought down some other names with it. Elf, Estee Lauder as well. So couldn't make up those gains at all.
One thing I will say is you cannot lower guidance or say anything about slowing sales in this market, unless you're Tesla. Unless you're Tesla, it's forgiven. But
Yeah.
there has been multiple cases here. Snowflake earnings were not that great. Cannot get any love at all here. We talked about the Palo Alto trade. Off the earnings has leaked it all back here. But like this is serious. Like when you get 100-point fall here, these things typically just don't snap back. And then I look at Ulta Beauty and I think, well, what's the AI trade here? There isn't an AI trade. They can say, oh yeah, AI, it's going to help us make the makeup better. But everybody will say some type of, like, well, we're related to AI somehow. There's no real money being made from AI here. Ulta Beauty, I just think you're staying away when you see a down move like that. At least give it some time to settle, because everybody's natural human tendency, we've said this before, is to go in and buy the weakest stock. What was weak, it's going to bounce right back. And that's where everybody does it wrong, because typically they don't bounce right back. Certain stocks. Now, again, pick your sector. If you've got an AI weakness, you've got, some stocks coming down that are going to be AI plays. Those are probably, the story's probably still hot enough that it's going to bounce it back. We got a makeup company here, like, I don't know, like and again, it doesn't trade at a super reasonable valuation either. I mean, it's not crazy. What is the valuation here, AB? You got that?
Yes, sir. It is forward PE of 16, price to sales of 1.9.
That's not bad.
No.
Okay, well, so reasonable.
And by the way,
valuation.
I mean,
very reasonable valuation.
Like, if you've been watching this stock, move higher, make new all-time highs the past 3 years, saying, why, I should get in this, you have a chance now. And I mean, if this thing moves any lower, like, I'm going to buy some of it too, because this industry is huge. I still think there's good growth there. Just because the growth is slowing right now doesn't mean that it's going to be slowing forever, or that it's going to, revert to its sales from 10 years ago. I mean, I don't know. I guess I got to go in and see exactly like what the reasons are for that growth slowing. But at the end of the day, I mean, this thing's a monster. It's like the leader in the space. I know a lot of people that shop here, so I mean, yeah, I think Ulta's a buy if it starts moving lower.
It's been a good stock for a very long time, but I think when you see big down moves like here, it's very important to be more patient than just scoop. I would say if this is an AI stock, maybe you scooping. I think it's not an AI play. I don't think it turns it around, just like on a dime. I don't think they just rip it right back. And it hasn't been working for the last few days, like few weeks, just randomly buying the disappointing earnings dip. And this is, what this is, even though, it wasn't on the schedule and it wasn't on official earnings announcement. You got guidance.
Yeah.
Who's
trading on their phone? Yeah, at a conference. Who's on their phone, like, popping bids in the pre-market?
That's smart traders. They're getting the hell out of there.
You gotta maybe you get back. You get a check back. You got a gap to fill down to 427.80. So see if you get back. I mean, that was a big gap to fill. It held it for several months. So I think if the big boys are going to be re-nibbling in this thing, it might be between the 420 and 430 area. Of course, you get a couple bottoms here in the same area. Maybe get a little bounce, trading up $3 in the pre-market. But man, that was a big move. A lot of people are caught. Elf Beauty. All of a sudden, Elf Beauty, 220 March, 165, 166 right now. Boy, that 160 area looks like good support. And Estee Lauder, EL, man, that's just been the dog of the group, man. That's never revisited, come anywhere near those old-time highs made back in late 21, early 22, and got some monthly resistance too. So let's see. We'll see if we can get a pullback here down to fill that gap in Ulta.
Someone asking about data coming out at 8:30. We do have initial jobless claims in 10 minutes, as well as U.S. trade balance. Let's bring it back to retail now. We got the bad out of the way. Now let's get to the good. Levi's reported earnings last night, and strong earnings. I mean, the stock is trading up 12%. I'm going to pull up those numbers exactly, but I had actually been talking about this stock as kind of like an opposite play to this fast fashion that we're seeing with Shein and all these other companies that are shipping basically very cheap material from China and stuff. Levi has done a good job of leaning into being the like environmentally conscious clothing brand that you can buy one good pair of denim and it's gonna, you can keep that for 2 years. It's not as bad for the environment, which people are gonna say, oh my God, you're so woke. And it's like, No, I don't personally like shop based on that stuff, but people do. And that's what I care about is making money. And so when you have all this data that shows that younger people are spending their money in a more, conscientious way, then it makes sense why Levi's wants to lean into this. But they reported EPS of 26 cents, beat 21-cent estimate. Sales came in at 1.55 billion, beat the $1.54 billion estimate. I believe they gave some good guidance as well. Yep, raised 2024 adjusted EPS guidance, and a really good move. I mean, up 40% from the lows back in. Wait, let me pull my chart's not loading. When were the lows in here? Like October of last year?
Yeah. Well, it formed a nut. Yeah, in October it made the ultimate low, but buyers stepped up at 18 big time. You had to move up in a quiet consolidation. This took a nice pop on Levi's here. Went up to 21.35. That's a big move, so keep an eye on that as a potential target on the upside. But for me, when I see this kind of formation on the monthlies, I think if this thing we're traded 2087, that's up 221. If you establish a bid here about, at or near this 2050 area, get a little foundation here, then I think you get a move up to just over 22. But here you are at your highest level since early 2022. They're a little frustrating to buy Levi. I went a while ago to look for some jeans there, and they got like 87 versions of the same pant. And I just was like, it was like, so I'm like, no, I want the pair I bought 10 years ago. And I couldn't find them. But anyways, people are out there buying denim. Let's see if we can hold the 2050 area, take out the pre-market.
Retail is always a tough trade. I mean, you can
Mhm.
see pesky trends start from nowhere, and you can see certain stocks like Dillard's or A&F just relentlessly bid for years, and then other retail doesn't go anywhere here. So you somewhat have to just be cautious, saying, "Oh yeah, retail sucks. I'm just going to sell it," because you picked the wrong stock, and you can really get hurt on that. Levi has been doing well. To your point, it's been doing well here for a while. It's a nice earnings report. I think we just got to be careful with, just blindly chasing these things, though.
Well,
So it's a tough call.
What I think is interesting about playing the retail trade or the retail names is you have these different trends, and if you feel like you have your finger on the pulse of these trends, there's money to be made. And like I said, I mean, we had this whole movement toward fast fashion, people buying, I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Shein, or I mean, even people ordering clothes off Amazon, like people do it all the time now. And it's good because you can get something real cheap. You need to get something for an event, like a shirt for a concert or something, whatever. You get it, it's cheap, but then you like throw it away. You don't wear it that much, and it's real. I mean, the fast fashion industry is one of the most like environmentally like worst things for the environment. And then you have Levi, the pendulum's kind of swinging the other way now, where Levi's positioning itself and saying like, hey, like if you want to buy clothes that's not bad for the environment, all this stuff, come to us. And on top of that, you mentioned Abercrombie Fitch. There's this whole movement of like old becoming cool again. It's not just Abercrombie and Levi's. You look at like Depop, eBay, all these people are buying.
Gap. Look at the Gap. Fall into the Gap.
Yeah,
I was going to
true,
talk about
actually.
people buying like actual thrifted clothes too. Like I have so many friends now that are going to buy like a vintage Patagonia jacket, like a 1990s Patagonia ski jacket on eBay. And what's amazing is that like the quality on this stuff is usually like a lot better than what you can buy now in 2024. And B, like it's still pretty cheap. Like you can buy like an old Patagonia jacket for $50 that's like cool, it's different versus going to a store and buying a brand new one for $250. So the whole vintage resale clothing market, that's back right now. You have Levi's becoming cool again, you have Abercrombie becoming cool again. So that's the trend right now, and it's not going to stay that way forever because all these retail trends tend to kind of like
they change.
They come and go. They come and go.
Triple D, and I don't know if anybody in the chat is even going to get this, of our veterans. Remember who we used to talk retail with? And I'll give you a hint. It was a female. And one time we were talking about Levi's and jeans or something. And I'll tell you what I mentioned, and she absolutely ripped me. I mentioned something about jean shorts. Do you remember that young lady that we had on? We haven't. I'm going to try and dig her
Well,
up.
you know my memory. He always throws me under the
Does
bus
anyone
on these
remember
questions. I
here?
never get one right. I'm like,
No, it
for like
wasn't Dana
10,000.
Stacy. How about? I don't even know if Jay Rice was around then yet. Kristen Benz. You remember that name?
You really throw me under the bus here, Joel.
Okay, I'm
To
sorry.
finish the story.
Well, anyways, I'm
It's
going
been
to
a
try.
long time ago. Joel's
It was a lot.
memory, he remembers everything. He's like an elephant, he just doesn't forget. And I'm the goldfish with the 6-second memory here. So
Okay.
we're exact opposite
All
here.
right,
Tell
let's
us the
go.
story.
Even
Finish
Jay
the
Rice
story.
does it. I just looked her up on Twitter. Maybe I'll try and get her on. Okay.
There you go.
Enough of the fashion
I'm sure
talk.
she was excellent.
Fashion talk is worse than sports.
Well, hold on.
Come on, guys.
Last point on it, Joel's question. Someone in the chat's asking if Speedos are coming back. What do you wear when you swim?
I wear like down like just above the knees.
The jammers.
Yeah, jammers. I wear jammers.
So are they Speedo brand though?
I think I have
or the TY or
TYR.
TYR.
They outlawed these cheater suits, man. These suits,
We
like
are
you
off
dive
the
in
rails
and
here.
you're just like floating on top of the water. But no,
We are
anyways.
off the rails.
All right, we
Bring
have
us
a couple.
back on the rails.
All right, we have a
Train
couple
is
other.
completely derailed.
We have a couple other headlines and stuff to get to, but I
Let's
don't know
do
why.
the Palantir.
Okay.
That's one just it broke at 8:00 here.
Now
and
you're
we
throwing
haven't
me
even
under. Now you're
talked.
throwing me under the bus, Dennis.
No, I know, but this is like what's happening here. So Oracle,
okay.
8:00. Oracle and Palantir join forces to deliver mission-critical AI solutions to government and business.
AI.
So Palantir wanted a headline. It's been leaking, needed a headline. Here you go. It looks like, some type of, deal here going with Oracle. And obviously, it's popping up substantially on the deal. It'd be probably a nothing burger for Oracle, but, it's a big name. Palantir has been a stock that's been dogging for a while. We've been talking, we bring it back to the AI trade because these are the ones that are going the last couple of days, folks. These stocks want to bounce back. They're waiting for headlines. Palantir just got one. That's why we're up 80 cents here. I wouldn't fade it.
I don't know. I'm gonna sound kind of dumb when I say this because I know what Palantir does, but I don't really. I guess
none of us really do.
I know, and the way they
don't sound dumb.
the way they work with like the governments and do all this stuff, and they're tracking us, it seems kind of shady. But outside of that, if I wanted to go out and buy an AI play today, and I know Palantir is a very popular stock among retail traders, so someone in the chat may try to sell me on this. But give me a reason why I should buy Palantir at a 69 forward PE and a 23 price to sales when I can buy NVIDIA at a 36 forward PE and about the same price to sales.
It's the market cap that scared me away on this one. And I've been in this name. I've been in and out of this name trading it, but haven't made it. It hasn't really made its way into my long-term portfolio for the simple reasons that those metrics scare me. But also the market cap, $50 billion is like a huge company. And like I don't really know what they do. You're right. I don't really know what they do.
The company announced like a $200 million government contract a month ago, and the stock went up like $2 billion in market cap, and it's like it's a
cult stock. It's a cult. It has a big following. Got a little topsy-turvy. I gave you all a number a long time ago when it had this big pop up to 27, and it was not a daily. You got to go to the monthly sometimes. You had a pair of highs back in October, November of 21 at the $27 area. Little check back. I'm looking. It's not back at its 4-day high here. I mean, it's climbing. But let's see what happens. I'd say next target on the upside, 24.26. Was your 4-day high if you're looking for another target on the upside. But you're right. They needed a headline. They get the headline. The headline has AI. Yep, AI has AI in it. And throw Oracle in there a little bit, right? I mean, nothing wrong with being associated with Oracle, right? So there you go.
And that's what I wanted. Jobless claims just coming out here right now. I just went wide in time. I had a couple people in the chat. Thank you. I just went wide just in the nick of times. 221,000 versus 214,000 is what I'm seeing on a preliminary number here.
Yep, 221 versus 213.
213. So slightly higher. I don't think it's going to move the needle.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I think almost for the market right now, you probably want it to come in a little higher than a little cooler because that, I mean,
Yeah,
I just think you're in
we
this
don't want a
spot.
hot labor market.
I just think you're in this spot where when we're looking for this data, you want something that's not too extreme to either side. Because if it's, if it was way lower, then people are going to say the labor market's so hot, the Fed doesn't need to cut. If it's way higher, people are going to say, okay, this is maybe I don't want to say recession, but this is the slowdown that we've been looking for, where maybe the Fed can orchestrate it to where, there's a little bit of balancing in the labor market that helps bring inflation down without having all the negative impacts that would be associated with like a drastic increase in unemployment right now. So I think that's actually a pretty good number. 221 versus 213. It's showing.
Bonds aren't moving off it. TLT's not moving
No,
off it. Still,
TLT says no thank you. TLT's been saying no thank you to everything. This is what spooked me. This is what continues to spook me is the continued leak. I'm long TLT. It's the continued leak in this that spooks me from going like all in. But again, the AI trade don't care about TLT. It's IWM that cares about TLT. It's the banks that care about TLT, the regionals especially. It's a lot of interest rate sensitive. Like we talked solar. There's certain sectors that care about TLT. AI doesn't care about TLT. TLT can continue to leak. AI can continue to win in that environment. The other stocks can't. So you just got to be careful blindly chasing. I wouldn't say I'm going all in on small caps until I see a recovery in the TLT, and it keeps leaking.
it's not there.
Man,
not
I'm
there.
beating myself up big time over here. I don't know why I just looked at this stock, but I saw it. You guys, we talked about it probably a week ago, maybe two. Look at this monthly move in Southern Copper, SCCO. I mean, this is insane. When is a copper stock, like a commodity stock, this thing's not supposed to move like this. It's up
So
40. It's up 40% in the last month.
No, commodities are inflating again. This is the problem. Like it's
I know.
inflation.
What
We're
mixed
seeing
signals?
commodity inflation across the board
Look
here.
at this. I know.
This has got it. Like you can't just start. This is what started the problem in the first place. Oil started taking off. I mean, we've got commodity inflation here happening. It's why I bought Alcoa. I'm like, it's aluminum. When's aluminum going to start going? Probably. I mean, I still think about chat. Here's homework for you. What's the commodities that haven't gone yet? Go look for the laggard commodity trade because you know what? Aluminum, that Alcoa trade's working really well.
Certainly ain't cocoa.
It ain't cocoa. No, cocoa, I know it's just exploded.
Yeah, a little check back in cocoa there, though. It got
all right.
put a little double.
I mean, if you want to,
I'm not calling the top. It just got over $10,000. If you want commodities that haven't gone, I'll give you sugar. Sugar is looking sweet down here. I mean, it's had overall on the monthlies. It's had a pullback. What about the wild child coffee? How's coffee doing? Oh, coffee.
That's already going.
Yep. What are the other commodities? Let's look at the grains. Oh man, we're not going to have any grain. We're not going to have any wheat because of the war in Russia. Wrong. War in the Ukraine. Wheat. Let's just take a look. Corn. Pullback here in corn. Still trading in fractions. Maybe go back to that. Beans in the teens. Boom. Not in the teens, under $12 a bushel. But benign data, Dennis. We're just floating up here, just off the highs of the pre-market session, up 20 handles here at 52.8650. So bonds not reacting that great, but equity buyers still out there.
I think it's more like with the commodity trade, it doesn't appear. I guess cocoa has went, but it doesn't appear to be all just food. But I mean, we've seen a significant rally, obviously in oil. We've seen a significant rally. You just said in copper. It looks like aluminum starting to pick it up again too. Is there an aluminum? Like, is there a ticker for aluminum futures? Throw you under the bus here. It's not that I don't look at. I just look at Alcoa. Hard to get.
Well, there's the aluminum strategic fund. Trade by appointment only. That's
looks too thin to even get any information off of that.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Where's my? I don't know.
I just see Freeport McMoran blasting off here every day here now. 2 FCX in the last 2 weeks. Look at this one, 38 FCX to $49.
That's a copper play too. I mean, I'm beating myself up. They did shout out. They do a great podcast over at Bloomberg Odd Lots. It's Joe Weisenthal and Tracy Alloway, and they did a copper episode like a year and a half ago, talking about how basically the demand for copper worldwide was set to like tenfold over the next 20 years. And I showed my stats where I bought Southern Copper at like a year and a half ago and ended up selling it 2 days later for a loss, and now it'd be up 100%. And I mean, if you're looking at like at a
Why would you
play,
sell something 2 days later, AB?
well,
This is what
sometimes
I do. He listens to me too much. I'm in
no,
and out.
because I'll buy something, and then like 2 days later, like a bill will pop up, and I'll be like, oh man, I need to raise some cash, and then I'll go sell. Like my
Yeah,
finances
I
are
have that
always
problem too.
in fluctuation. But either way, I mean, it's like I'm seeing right now that part of the reason for the increase in prices in copper is not just increased demand, which that's good news for the global economy, right? You have Dr. Copper help you diagnose the health of the economy. If copper's doing well, typically it's a good sign because it goes into everything from construction to electronics to now EVs, etc. But also supply chain issues, which I didn't know we were still dealing with supply chain issues. I thought, COVID passed, we're done with that, but I guess they're not mining enough. So some of these mining companies could be interesting. But again, like they called this basically on that Odd Lots podcast a year and a half ago, kicking myself again for making that trade and selling. But if you guys have some good miners, some things to check out there, let me know in the chat and I'll do it.
We are starting to go higher here. They're starting to bounce us
Yeah,
back. It
there's
looked like a
nothing in
nothing
here.
burger, and now they decide, no, it's not a nothing burger, it's a something burger, and they are ripping higher. TLT again, not moving, not really moving off of it. IWM has come up substantially here. We've ripped about 5-6 handles on the S&P since the numbers, so they are
Yeah.
buying it. The little hot
Nothing in
number,
here.
they're like, ooh, jobs cool a little bit. Fed 3 interest rate cuts, Powell. Three, please, 3.
And I mean, I said it, and people in the chat were saying it as well. That the kind of like it seemed like a sweet spot, like Goldilocks, just right, not too bad on either side. So I'm not surprised to see the market responding well to that. Someone else, we were just talking about data centers. Oh, Carmen said, yeah, I read an article where data centers are switching to copper for short distance cables. Like, so copper's an AI play now, guys. I mean, so
There you go. There you go. That's
all
what you
right,
needed.
let's move off copper though, because we've spent probably too much time talking about copper.
But what's been moving has been commodities. In the last month, this has been the trade. Certain commodities. Obviously, we look through not all of them, but there's been big moves in some commodities.
Let's talk some Google, because Google, speaking of AI, was kind of your like AI dog for a while. I mean, the stock got hammered.
Yeah.
After they released the BART, it was seen as not as good compared to ChatGPT, all this stuff. And then people said, hold on, wait a minute, maybe Google will be an AI play. And then the stock came back, hit new all-time highs the other day. You had a headline after the close yesterday. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Alphabet stock initially jumps as Google considers charging for AI search. So, trying to bring in some extra money from the AI, but then the market decided, maybe not. This isn't great news. And now it's trading lower. At the end of the day, maybe Google's not the leader right now, but it obviously is in AI play. So, I mean, Google all-time highs the other day, probably, I don't know. Because are we looking at a little double toppy?
Separating itself from Apple in the last month, because they had
Yep.
the Magnificent Seven all separating. It was Tesla was garbage, Google was garbage, and Apple was garbage. We can't stop buying Nvidia, and we love Microsoft still. And Amazon has been in Meta. We're still getting love. They were separating of 4 versus the 3. Well, Google has got back into the good books now of the market here, and they are seeing it as an AI play. And it did pop substantially on that headline last night, but then turned around and went red on it. So I'm not sure what that was all about. Market liked it, then they didn't like it.
Woo.
But so far, like obviously, I would say beginning of the year, this is definitely out of favor. It's back in the favor here. The technicals are telling you it's back in the favor. I still am scared of Google, because I still think AI is coming for a chunk of that search. And I'm not sure they're going to lose some market share there. So I'm still so scared that the AI may come in here and actually take some of the search away, whether it's a ChatGPT product or something else. And that's still the core piece of Google's revenue. Obviously, Google very diversified, lots of other businesses there. But, you wouldn't want to see, they got a monopoly on search. You wouldn't want to see that monopoly broken.
Big pop to 160 on a huge volume. A nice round number at 160. Now you've had the check back. So you're red on the session, but I'll give you a longer term number here. and that's going to be 156.50. That was your all-time closing high on the day that it made its current all-time high, I guess, if you don't close the pre-market at 157. And then you closed right at that area yesterday. So the best mark possible ever, 156.50, down to $1.05. That'll be a interesting level to keep an eye on. Perhaps in today's session, really not rallying with the S&Ps as we are coming up just like this, Monday's high. That's your next target on the upside. That comes in at 52.96. Nothing in there in the 90 handle so far for the S&Ps.
So I did notice on Google the other day, I could share my screen. I Googled, and I assume this is done with some form of AI. I Googled how much is Intel spending on chip making in the US. And this popped up on the top of Google, which this isn't new, that Google, will give you the answer to a question up top without you having to click on the article. But this came from an article 1 day ago that it pulled it from this Reuters article. So I assume that's done with some form of AI, like no humans going in there and writing this blurb from the Reuters article. And like that's significant, because if you can start Googling stuff and getting an answer pulled from a recent article using AI, and you don't even have to click on the article, like that makes my job a lot easier, that I don't have to go click into this article. Because a lot of times, like, if you search something and you see a headline with the question you're looking for, it'll be like buried deep in the article and you got to read and find it. So I thought this was pretty cool, because I was like, oh, it's right here. Intel plans to spend $100 billion on building or expanding chip factories in 4 U.S. states. Didn't have to go through the whole article. So like, that to me is a significant, like increase in the value of Google search. So people talk about ChatGPT replacing Google, this and that. But if Google continues to make their search more valuable through things like this, then their monopoly on search, like they might have a stronghold on it for a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, that's what they got to do, is they got to keep evolving here to a certain extent. Or you're right, people are going to come with these chatbots and just be asking them the question and not bothering to go to Google. So you need to be able to just ask Google a question. It gives you a straight up answer without taking you through all these sponsored links. So with you there, AB, and maybe they are, obviously, improving the product, and they're going to have to continue.
And they got to be using some form of AI for that, right? I mean, no, they're not going through that Reuters article. A human is.
Well, I think it's going to continue to improve the Google experience. Oh, yeah. I mean, AI, don't think about Google. They are definitely an AI play. I'm just concerned that they have such a monopoly that, that the offset, from their AI revenues could be hurt if they start losing that monopoly. I don't know if they're going to make more money. So obviously they're an AI play. Maybe long term you're fine with Google as well. Valuation's always been more reasonable than a lot of these other stocks. So although you're seeing separation here, like the valuations where Microsoft was 29 times and Apple was 29 times, now you're starting to see complete separation here, where Microsoft's up at like 37 times earnings now, and Apple's down to like 25 times because the stock prices have just went in opposite direction. So sometimes that stuff fixes itself. But you look here, Google, its valuation's always been, less than Apple and Microsoft. So they've always kind of put that, discount for whatever reason on Google, and they don't see them as strong a performer as Microsoft. So they do see Microsoft as a threat, or Microsoft wouldn't be trading 37 times and Google trading 21 times.
All right, guys, it is 8:44. We're going to do something a little different with our guest interview today. This is a pre-recorded interview that Joel and I did last week. Very fun interview. We got to speak to Kendrick Perkins, former NBA champion and ESPN analyst. Kendrick Perkins is working with a cool NIL company called LEVI. So if you're interested in sports, the investing in sports, how you can, invest in this growing industry of NIL, you got to check out this interview. Joel, anything else you want to say before I pop it up?
No, fun guy, and just listen to him. Very, very interesting story, and future is sports here. If you're investing, you like sports, this Nilly may be for you. Nilly.us. Hello, Elconin and Aaron Bree here from PreMarket Prep. We got a special guest here from ESPN sports analyst Kendrick Perkins. You all know him from the NBA. Kendrick, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I appreciate y'all having me.
Okay. You also have another role. You're an investor and ambassador for a new program, Nilly, to help student athletes. So we just wanted to talk about your involvement in that today, and I'll just start out. Like as a youngster, before I get to that, I just want a background question. As a youngster, did you have like a favorite NBA player that you kind of modeled your game after?
Well, I had a few. I grew up in Beaumont, Texas, so I was always a big Hakeem Olajuwon fan with the Houston Rockets, Clutch City, back-to-back champions, but I never could really turn the corner of actually getting the dream shake and the wiggle. So, I tried to translate over to Shaq. In high school, they used to call me Baby Shaq. Obviously, he went to San Antonio Cole down there in San Antonio. So I mixed it up. One day I would be Patrick Ewing. One day I would be KG. It was dependent on the mood. You know what I mean? The mood.
Kendrick, big fan here. Thanks again for joining us. And by the way, Hakeem's University is doing pretty well too. Still in March
It
Madness.
is.
Got that overtime win against A&M last night. Speaking of college, how early or how young were you when you knew you wanted to forego college and go straight to the NBA straight out of high school?
My 10th grade year is when I went to the ABCD camp and I got put on the radar. And then at that time, we didn't have Mac computers and all that. So, I used to go to the local library and look at the mock draft every day to see, where I was ranked in the mock draft. And when I started seeing my sophomore year of high school, NBA scouts come down to Beaumont, Texas, I knew it was a real thing. And the motivation behind that was that, my mom was shot and killed when I was 5 years old. My grandparents raised me. My grandmother made $60 a week. Grandfather made $300 a month, and we grew up without not a lot. And I tell this story so many times. I don't know if you guys heard it, but my first time going to AAU trip, I went with a roll of pennies. A roll of pennies. Of $20. So I could relate, when it comes to Nilly, when, my guy, the CEO, Chris Ricciardi, came about and brought this opportunity to me because there's so many of these young athletes that are going through the similar situation, and right now it's becoming a time where it's expensive. They're traveling a lot, the camps, and you just want to have that financial security and that peace, not only for you but your family as well.
Back then, you didn't have the access to something like Nelly, right? To
Correct.
assist you, you had to do the homework on your own, going to the library, checking things out. Did you have anybody that you consulted with? I mean, now agents would be all over you from the seventh or eighth grade. Did you have
Mhm.
anybody you could consult with?
Yeah, absolutely. My high school coach, Andre Butte, congratulations to him. He just retired, but a Hall of Fame coach in Texas. He stepped in as a huge father figure in my life, and he directed a lot of traffic when it came down to visiting colleges, going to camps, making the right decision, and also sacrificing. He was the one that gave me the advice. He the one that steered me in the right direction, and he also was played a huge part in keeping the others away from me. It's a lot of vultures out there that are looking for a come up to attack these young men, any way they know how. And if that's doing something with them with the intent of having a hidden agenda later on down the line, they're out there. And, again, going back to Neely, it weeds all of this out.
Were you ever worried? I mean, you talked about when you were in the 10th grade, 15 or 16, you start seeing your name in those mock drafts. Were you ever worried that basketball was maybe not going to work out? Did you have a backup plan at all?
No, it was either I was making it to the NBA or I was gonna fail in life. After after I left ABCD camp, I was actually ranked number one for about 4 months in front ahead of LeBron James, and then he caught
Wow.
up with me, and I was ranked always top 5 in the country. So the NBA, it was always the NBA. Like
Right.
once I saw that, it was never a second option. It had to work out. I was gonna force it to work out, and I did it. I cried myself to sleep so many nights. I separated myself from so many high school events. I sacrificed so much, and so it was that or nothing.
college sports is just becoming more and more like professional sports in a lot of different ways. Do you see that trend continuing?
Yes, and it should. You know why? Because think about this for a second, Joel. Last year, they made right around what $16 billion off of sports in college. You know how much the athlete got? Zero. My point exactly. So, if you're having that much money and these athletes are creating that much wealth for these universities, why they can't get none? And I would love, and it's going to continue to grow. Look, we're in the new. It's all about adjusting. It's all about accepting things. Now you could be a part of it or you can't, but you're gonna be left behind, even when it comes to nearly. And right before this, earlier today, I was on the phone with a parent and the kid, just, explaining to them what the Nearly was all about, explaining to them how the process worked. And they was like, when do I need to sign up?
So what advice would you give to athletes, maybe heading into their college career, focused on making it to the pros, and athletes that are considering joining Nilly?
Well, I would tell them, get a head start in life, get a peace of mind, right? And getting a peace of mind is having financial security. And you can't trust what, in this world today, usually in the old school, you could trust a person's word. But in today's game, you can't trust anybody's word, right? If it's not on paper, then they don't have to do it. But at the end of the day, if you have a golden opportunity like Nilly, it's not your typical student loan. And if you get injured, you don't have to pay it back. If you don't make NIL money, you don't have to pay it back. I mean, all you have to do is go and perform. And you're paying it back while still making money at the same time.
All right, one final thing for you. I know you were an enforcer in the NBA, right? You had your style, but what would have happened if you would have been around when the bad boys were around? 1989, man. Rick Mahorn, Bill Lambier. How would you have done against them, KP?
Yeah, you know what? Let me tell you this, Jay. I just had this argument with Stephen A. Smith about, I want to say 3 weeks ago. And I was telling him, I understand the bad boys Pistons. I understand Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars. I understand they were some rough riders. But the most dangerous team was the 2004 Pistons. Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups. That was arguably the greatest defensive team in NBA history. I would have had more problems with them, whole and healthy, than I would have had more problems with the old bad boys. And there's no disrespect. I'm just saying. Maybe I'm being a little biased because I actually seen it and was old enough to realize what the hell was going on. I'm an 84 baby. Okay, I was born in 84. So, even when I was watching the Bad Boys Pistons, I still didn't understand what was going on.
On the line with Kendrick Perkins, TV analyst, NBA analyst for ESPN, talking about Nilly. And it's a way for student athletes to participate in their earnings power before they get to, or when they get to college and when they get to the NBA. Really important. You guys should check out Nilly, nilly.us, for investors and for young athletes. A great opportunity. So not just the networks, the universities, and the NCAA can make money, but the student athletes can as well.
Thank you, Joel, for letting me hang out with this interview. It was awesome to chat with a guy that I grew up watching play on TV. Never thought, if you could go back in time, tell 13, 14-year-old Aaron, you'd be talking to Kendrick Perkins one day. I'd be pretty psyched up about that. So thank you again, Joel. Thank you, Kendrick and the Nilly team. Go check them out. All righty. That was,
that was fun.
Pretty cool. I mean, a little
I'm
different.
actually surprised by his answer to the bad boys. I mean, we think about the bad boys, but that 2004 team was really good too. Like, I mean, they started that year like 35-4 or something. Like, I remember watching and, just glued. Like, they were awesome. So, I mean, and they're the very underrated team because you think of the Pistons, you always think about the back-to-back bad boys. I mean, that's what you think about. But, that 2004 team, Joel, That was good.
Yeah.
You know, ball don't lie. Ball don't lie. Who said that? Remember that? Ball don't lie.
Yeah, Rip
Yeah, man,
Rip
and they would have
Hamilton
won
too.
2 in a row if Rip Hamilton wouldn't have pulled up. Tayshaun was coming down the middle. I can remember that was the year they could have won 2 in a row. But anyways, S&P's still ripping. Back to the markets. Relentless bid in this market. We're above Monday's high. There's
TLT
no
ripping now
offers
too.
out
They
there.
started buying TLT too. It's like the market led the TLT. You rarely see that one happen, but that's what looks like it just happened here. I mean, I again, you know, I said a few days ago, you know, I'm turning bearish here. I think, you know, we got to start being cautious, and it's just in your face. It's like when you turn bearish in this market, you're just wrong. It seems like almost instantaneously. And again, you know, maybe we're going to leak here, but this market, like we're down to possibly 1 interest rate cut this year. We're down to possibly 1. Like, let's talk about the math with inflation. And you know, the market's taking it in stride again. Like, it just can't stop. Like, you would think that, you know, the TLT sell-off and, you know, the talks of, you know, maybe going from 3 to 1, you know, from Boston comments yesterday would be like, oh my gosh, you know, how we need lower rates.
Don't care.
Nope, the market don't care. The market don't care. And price don't lie. We always used to say that from Rasheed Wallace. Price don't lie. Ball don't lie. Price don't lie. So I mean, you have bearish. It's hard to argue with what's happening here today. I don't know. I'd like to say, oh, maybe we fade this rally here, but I don't think you do.
Where's young AB?
He left us.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's gone. I don't know what happened. He's gone.
Let's see. If
I'm back.
He's hiding out in the background.
Something just happened. I had to refresh my.
Bailed.
All right, real quick. Let me try to clean up. See if we had any headlines we didn't get to. Square. Let's go to Square, Block, whatever you want to call it. Dennis, I know you know what's going on with this because
I'm getting hammered on it.
There was a downgrade from Morgan Stanley. Downgrade Block to underweight. Wait, I thought you said it was a sell. I'm seeing downgrade to underweight.
Underweight is a sell. Underweight is a sell.
Lowers,
so some brokerages, just for clarification for everyone, some brokers do not use the sell word even at all in their notes. They use underweight. So, you know, there's some that say actual sell. Morgan Stanley is one that doesn't say sell. It says underweight. Underweight is a sell.
I was under the impression sell was below underweight.
No, there's a couple brokers that do that too, though. They'll go sell and strong sells. No, typically it's overweight, underweight, and neutral at a lot of these brokers, and then it's buy, hold, sell. So I mean, that's where a lot of the main ones are. So underweight is a sell.
So they went from, well, I guess neutral to underweight, I believe. Or no, yeah, it went from equal weight to underweight. Lowers price target from $62 to $60. You had some kind of battling analysts this morning though, because Benchmark came out and said no, it's a buy and raised the price target to 99. So you have a really wide spread on different analyst ratings and price targets this morning from $60 to 99. Either way, Square, obviously the market's saying we care more about Morgan's rating than Benchmark. Stock trading down about 3% as we head into trading today. But I mean, do you got any thoughts here? Any technicals?
It's really technically, this is kind of in no man's land. I will say it's a rating, you know, so see if you get the effect. You've had the effect to follow through 76.40. I mean, you're in absolute no man's land here. There's pretty good support down in the $75 area, the gap area. Doesn't feel like it's going to be getting there. But if, you know, if you're following Morgan Stanley's lead, you want to see it get back down, take out that pre-market low and hold towards the $75 area. PayPal just kind of has a mind of its own here, not really affected by it.
They've kind of separated here, PayPal and Square. They're just not moving together nearly as much as they were. We used to be PayPal versus Square, and which one's going to go to 25 first, and all the fun stuff. And Square has kind of, but no, PayPal sneaking. Like at one point in time, the gap almost got to 20 points again. So, I mean, they're starting to close the gap. PayPal's starting to close the gap, but these two stocks just aren't really moving together like they used to.
All right, other headline we didn't really get to today. Apple had some, you know, Bloomberg came out with a report about Apple working on home robotics. I mean, Apple, I guess, is looking for like the next big thing after the EV didn't work out, after the Apple car fizzled out. I mean, I think it's like obviously, we talked about this with the humanoids and Tesla. I think it's too early to get really excited about these robots. And with something like Apple, typically Apple is usually pretty, secretive when it comes to its new products, things
They
it's
are.
working on until it's like ready to go and they want to announce it. So again, like I wouldn't be going out and buying Apple because of the robotics news. I might be going out and buying Apple for other reasons, just because it's kind of still been a little bit beaten down compared to the other big tech names. But robotics, it seems like, once you have the biggest company in the world or one of the biggest companies in the world and Apple talking about it, like seems like it's a legit thing that's coming. And, we'll probably see more and more headlines from companies like Apple about robotics in the coming years and months.
I think everybody's going to get into robotics, and the humanoid trade is going to be across the board. There's going to be a lot of different plays out there. We've talked about Tesla's a humanoid play, but I mean, there's so many other companies that are getting involved here as well. I mean, humanoids are coming. It's going to be a huge industry. Some people like Chris Camille are saying it's going to be one of the biggest industry this world has ever seen. I think it could be too. I think there's going to be a lot of different ways to play it. I think Apple is so early in this and so far behind. The problem with Apple is just behind on everything, it appears. And maybe they're just going to come out with something and they're so secretive that they're working on stuff behind the scenes and we're just not even getting a sniff of it. But it seems like, they worked on that car for years and then they just aborted. It seems like they're trying to find their way. And I'm going to say it again with Apple, is they have been missing that Steve Jobs innovation. Really, when we think about what have they come out with since Steve Jobs, they've just improved products. There hasn't been this game-changing new product. And, Apple was Steve Jobs. Like, he made this company what it is. And, again, the share price is increased, a lot since Steve Jobs has left. But it was all multiple expansion and iPhone. I mean, it was all building off of what Steve Jobs had left them. Well, he's gone, and he's been gone a long time now. His innovation is gone here, and I feel like that's what they're missing. Do you think if Steve Jobs was still alive today, and I'll throw it to you, AB, and Joel looks like he's left, but I could throw it to Joel too now because he's there. I think if Steve Jobs was still alive here today, that Apple would be leading the charge on AI. I think they would be right up there as boom, like one of the leaders, if not the leader. But he's not. He's not here anymore. And, AI was is a long ways after. I think this company, honestly, it's not innovative like it was under Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Jobs had that Elon Musk-esque thing to him where he was
really did
visionary, and when he got married on something, he was gonna make it happen and do it. And so who's to say maybe he would have been trying to do something else, not even with AI, and that's what he was driving toward. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say he was such a workhorse AB too, just to build on this, Musk is a what separates a person who's super successful like an Elon Musk, or like a Steve Jobs from the rest of us. It's one, they're very smart, very intelligent, but two, it's just motivation and this, workhorse, and not that we're all supposed to be that, the world's, somewhat, going to be, if you're just that much into what you're doing. But, think about what Elon Musk says, he worked 16-hour days, took 3 days off last year. We're all used to, taking off 150 days a year, 250 days, people want a 4-day work week and 3 days off. He took 3 days off last year. I believe him. Steve Jobs, and I had a friend that actually worked and, had direct, he was saying that Steve Jobs was just, about work and that was it. You tried to small talk Steve Jobs on the job, he would cut the small talk and say, let's get back to what focus on hand. He never wanted, how was your weekend? It was good. Now let's talk about work. I mean, that's the way he was. And that is why Apple became the powerhouse that it really did. I mean, I don't know if you should run every company like that always, but he was a workhorse and he was 100% about the work, and that was it. And when you get those kind of leaders, those companies just take off. That's why Elon Musk, like him or hate him from what he does on social media, you cannot argue with the accomplishments from PayPal to SpaceX to, obviously Tesla and everything he's done here now. Now he's working on humanoids. The accomplishments are just absolutely incredible here. And again, Steve Jobs, same thing. I mean, he created Windows and it all got stolen. That. They come in there and they, that's controversial. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, his innovation was just incredible. And going back to that, you just haven't had the innovation as Apple since Steve Jobs has been gone.
All right. Wow. That was calling Tim Cook a slacker there, but that's okay. I'll just
I don't know if he's a slacker, but he's
I know.
definitely not as innovative. I'll say right now, Tim Cook, not as innovative as Steve Jobs.
Well, I think
not
Cook,
even in the realm.
I think Cook is just more of a businessman, and he's good at running the business
Sure.
as what it is, and he does a really good job, making sure shareholders are happy, this and that. But does he have that same like visionary aspect?
Yeah.
And to
I
your
agree.
point, Dennis, probably like workhorse mentality that Jobs does. I mean, I've read the Walter Isaacson biography of Steve Jobs, which is a great book, and Isaacson wrote one on Elon Musk that came out last year. And a lot of biographies, they're very like, oh my God, this guy was amazing, this and that. And like, they talk about how amazing Jobs was, but also the downsides to that workhorse mentality that like most people who worked for him thought he was an asshole, and like his own family ended up like not liking him. So, so it's like there's sacrifices involved with that. It's not like, Steve Jobs was just, oh my God, the best guy ever. This, deserves all the, like, he deserves praise for what he was good at. And then the book was very objective and where maybe he like lacked in other areas in his personal life. So it was a very interesting book. And I'm curious if Isaacson's book on Elon Musk is similar, because other things I've read about Elon Musk, like the Ashley Vance book, is like very just praiseworthy the whole way through. And I'm like, all right, let's be, we got to be a little objective here. Let's be real. But all right, we're going way long
it's
here.
Probably a tough family life for Musk. I mean, how many kids does Musk have?
Like 12.
Yeah. And he's working 16-hour days. When's he seeing his kids? I mean, he's sacrificed everything. But if you're a shareholder, that's what you want. You don't care that, maybe he doesn't have the time for his family as much. You want the workhorse CEO. I mean, those are the best companies to invest in. That's why Tesla has been unbelievable what they accomplished. From making cars in the tent to where he is now is incredible. From what he's done, he basically took the whole, SpaceX basically is NASA to a certain extent, like he's taken a lot of things that NASA was doing and made them all better. I mean, it's honestly, his accomplishments are incredible. And again, that comes with what you were saying, AB, is the family life. I mean, I like my family. Joel, you like your family, obviously. AB, one day, you probably have kids and stuff too. It's a big focus of my life. I'm not looking to take over the world. I'm not looking to change the whole world here. I'm looking just to have a good life, and I want to really enjoy my kids, and I love my kids. And I'm not saying he doesn't love his kids, but when you work 16-hour days, you have a lot less time for your kids.
Final technical note here, just great. I mean, Apple came down and held where it should, that 168.50 area. You got 4 lows in that area, so if you're leaning on it for a swing trade, keep an eye on that. And then your next target on the upside be your 3-day high at 171.25. That's certainly not too far away here for Apple.
All right. Tomorrow we got some jobs data today. Tomorrow will be an even bigger morning with jobs data, non-farm payrolls coming up. Joel, who do we got talking to us?
We're going to talk IPOs. I think it's a good time. I know DJT is not an IPO, but it's a SPAC. We're going to have Eric Kroll on, and he's going to talk to us about the Reddit trade and the recent price action in these IPOs. So looking forward to that. The jobs number should be a lot of fun. And Triple D, I'll be seeing you virtually later. There'll be no closing print today. I'm heading over the border to Canada. Dennis and I are going to be speaking at the University of Windsor, their investment club. And man, they got some spreadsheets, some Excel stuff they're going to be sharing with us.
It's going to be fun.
We
sure.
put together a great presentation for that. So no
Awesome.
closing print today, folks, but we'll be back with you tomorrow morning.
All right, well, good luck, guys, with that. Sounds fun. Make sure to come back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Again, there should be some fireworks with that labor data. We'll see you guys there. Be there. Smash the like if you haven't already, and we do have live trading starting up right after this.